Hi, and welcome back to Pepperroot Gaming. I'm Dragoon,
And I'm Dirg. Thanks for watching.
spoiled with our riches from the nether and an abundance of items from the mob farm. It was finally time to take a look at refined storage.
With refined storage, we could tell that power was going to be an issue quickly. So I spent a lot of time this week playing around with different generator options.
John Williams here has been hard at work with a new song. What do you have for us today? Excellent. Something about that makes me feel real adventurous. Well, with that, let's get started.
Alright. As we come up through here, you'll notice a pretty big change over here. We now have a very nice decorative bell pumpkin head. And with that came another advancement to our system. We're now using the mechanical placers to put the iron bars and the pumpkins up there, which are being triggered by a immersive engineering redstone line. So let's flick this lever, and you can see the cascading fells.
God, this is so fast.
Yep. And we also figured out that you can just pipe the fluid out and save it for later instead of having to dispense it over and over into one of these. So that'll save some time. Let's turn this off. And we've also got a chute that pulls out all the items that we want from there. So the blaze powder, the inferium essence, and the mob souls. There's a filter on there to pull it out so it doesn't pull out the chunks and whatnot that we put in there for smelting. Not that we do that much. We also got lucky with getting a bee nest. I don't know if I'd actually call it luck. It took about 1,000 trees. Trying to get the honey seed taken care of for the mystic agriculture. And somehow all our bees went poof. They disappeared on us after our first harvesting. So I don't know if they just despawn after you get too far away, if they need name tags, or if the campfire that was up one level higher killed them off as they went back in, maybe. If anyone knows what happened, that'd be something really helpful to let us know. Also, if you know if they would be respawning in here, let us know. Because I don't want to have to plant another 1,000 trees to get a new one.
Yeah, that's insane.
Yep. We've been playing around with the immersive engineering, trying to figure that mod out a bit more. Really like the aesthetic of it, but the generators for it are really weak, so it'll be more of a decoration kind of thing. For the generators that I've been working on, let's go into I think it's the middle compact machine. We should probably rename these with an anvil. Yeah, this one. We got a slime factory going for the mycelial, the slimy ones. So in the void, which is the dimension that these are in, the only things that'll spawn from Blurst Earth are Tinker's Island slimes. So that's all you get out of this, just slime and a little bit of experience. And that will feed right up into... Oh, I gotta equip the jetpack, not just jump. Those get sent up into here, and the milk for that comes from this cow in this back corner. Poor guy leads a great life back there. The milk gets pulled out from the ranchers, put into a buffer tank, and pulled into the system. That's one way that we've been doing things. We've also got the pink mycelial generator set up. We tried doing pink sheeps, but 4 sheep cannot really provide you with much pink stuff. Figured it would, but they don't eat fast enough. The generator runs through the pink item about 3.5 seconds-ish. So for 3 generators that we've got going that give us 135 FE per tick, those guys weren't cutting it. So I set up a grow farm for peonies. Peonies can be hit with bone meal with a dispenser, and that makes another flower. So we've got a detector over here which spits out a redstone signal when we get below a certain threshold in the network, and it'll push the piston, which will push the observers together, creating a pulsing tick for the dispenser to continuously hit it with the bone meal, which then gets picked up by the item collector and put into the system and pulled out up here to make dye, which then goes into the system and up into these generators. And that more than covers our requirements for the 3. It shuts off for, I don't know, maybe 20 minutes at a time before it has to kick back on. But I'll show you that in motion. Pump that up to 25,000. Should be good. See, pushed it in. And there it goes. And to feed the bone meal, we take all those bones from our mob farm and send them into the pulverizer, which is also set up with a detector to shut off at 20,000 bone meal in the system. You can see it just kicked down, so it's making some right now. And that's also a good use of all the basalts drops that we keep getting and have nothing much to use with it. Outside of that, I tried setting up the blazing generator, but it really doesn't seem worth it. The blaze rods, they don't last very long in there, and it takes a long time to get them set up to be able to go in it. So for the little bit of energy you get from it, it is not something that we are going to be investing in upgrading. Likewise, the lapidary dynamo is kind of a letdown in this pack for some reason. If you look at the tooltip, it says it's just generating 4 RF per tick, which is just absurdly low. So I'm not going to be using much of that. Unless it's a bug. Because I hope that's the case. Because there's a lot of gems that we need to get rid of. I think that's it for in here. Oh, we've also got a little fertilizer thing going from the waste that all these sheep make. Gets picked up in there and sent over here to be composted. Throw that in the network. Should probably get that hooked up at some point.
Yeah.
Okay. And outside of the machine, one other generator we've been working towards is over here. Whoa, jetpack. There we go. Nice and easy. Is the biofuel generator. Uses biofuel, right? Yeah, biofuel, which is made in the bioreactor, which uses water and 9 types of items. Let me pull up the JEI so we can see what that is. That's the bioreactor. So berries, carrots, potatoes, netherwort, dyes of any type, heads of any type, mushrooms of any type, seeds of any type, and saplings of any type. So 9 of these items, 9 different items, and you get yourself a pretty good efficiency rate. Just one item, instead of filling this whole thing with different things, is, I believe, 10% efficiency, which doesn't give you much at all. So we're going to have to figure out how to set up 9 different farms to feed that. So that'll be fun.
Yeah, that one seems to be pretty rewarding once it's configured properly.
think the last one, outside of the windmill and the water wheel up there, is this guy, the Disenchantment Mycelial Oil Generator. This one's pretty easy to set up. First, you just need an enchantment factory and 2 books. Also the fluid XP from your mob farm. You've got it coming out of the ender tank and being piped in. You may not need the pipe, because you could probably just pull it from the machine itself. Clicking this green, and then, you know, just like with all the other machines, push, pull, disabled, what's up. But you put your empty book in here, and it gets enchanted. Whoa, that's going to be a big one. Look at that, 5 enchants on this thing. Lost my train of thought with that one. It gets pulled into the generator, and it strips the enchantment off. This one's just about done here. So, yep, 1 second. There we go. See, it pulled off the enchantment, spit out a normal book, and that normal book disappeared because it got sent into here and re-enchanted into this book. And it'll just keep repeating that process over and over again. And I am surprised we're not getting more FE per tick out of that book. It's only given us 320, which is the lowest I've seen. The highest I've seen is somewhere up around 650, if I remember correctly. Might have been 640 based on Minecraft numbers. 32, 64. But it's a pretty good generator. The only issue is that it uses a lot of liquid XP. We had to upgrade our mob farm down here. Let me turn jetpack off so the slabs don't drive me nuts. We pushed it back, probably doubling or more how much we're getting out of it. We also threw in the spawner for blazes, ghasts, and wither skeletons. And also upgraded the mob masher too, so we can get some heads off of that. But this wasn't even enough to keep up with it. So, let's go for a swim. Put my diving gear on. Ready?
Ready.
Here we go. Set up another mob farm. Turn my jetpack on to go faster. It is to the southwest. There it is. Just a big factory in there. See, there's 4 wings up top, each one at maximum distance, only 5 wide because that's the size of the doorway. We didn't want to mess with that aesthetic too much. I think it can only go maybe 2 more on each side anyway. Where's the door? There it is. Inside here we've got our shutoffs, the water dispensers, and a jetpack so I can actually get on the ladder. We've got one more layer of that, just one tunnel though. We blow in towards a mob masher. And that's grinding everything up. And let me put my night vision hat on so you can see inside. It's quite a mess. There are so many mobs coming at it, and so many items that don't get pulled up from our 2 absorption hoppers down below. Luckily we don't need those items really, but we gotta figure out a way to take care of them. Either putting lava at the end or putting in more absorption hoppers. Now this is all wired up using the Project Red wires. They're pretty fun. And here's our little network hub for it. Got a hopper back here, maximum upgrade to the radius, and another one up here. Same thing. Now they're definitely keeping up with the fluid because it looks like nothing's coming in, but it sure is. Because if you look at this, You can see it flashing. But even this is not keeping up with the demands of that one disenchantment factory setup. So we're going to have to figure something else out. Maybe a wither farm. I don't know.
Yeah, it's getting intense. I don't know what we're going to do to keep up.
We also have a third mob farm that we got set up. This one doesn't give us any experience. And I don't think it gives us player kill items either. Oh, let me put my mask back on. This one is northeast of here. There it is. Just a little one that gets us the liquid meat and pink slime using the mob slaughter factory from Industrial Foregoing. This lets us eat. Well, it keeps us fed using the infinity backpacks.
So this machine generates the liquid meat. Tasty. And with the infinity backpack, you can actually pull that out and it will continuously feed it to you to make sure you never have to eat food. The way to fill that up is just to take your infinity backpack in hand, go to a tank that has it in it, and right click. You just saw it empty out, and if I switch over to my infinity backpack here, you can see this bottom left meter is the liquid meat, and it is totally full. The other slots here are for biofuel, which will enable the magnet ability, and then the fluid, which is liquid essence, so it'll actually pick up the experience for you and store it in the backpack, which can make it easier to get it imported into a system and make it a little less dangerous to go running around in the world with a whole bunch of levels on you.
I think the biofuel also runs the items, the tools from Industrial Foregoing, like your drill and your saw.
Correct, yep, and yeah, it'll pull from that backpack as well. Good point.
We also get the pink slime out of here, which is used for making different machine blocks, parts for the machines, and slime balls. But we needed this for making one of the generators, I forget which one. So I had to get that set up. And down here is just a tunnel to get back home. We've also got our villagers down here. Just getting started on a little villager HUD. Got a mending book trader and a bunch of immersive engineering guys. Also got a breeder set up back here. I used Logical Geek Boy's video for this. It's a real simple thing to set up. Kids fall down this hole. When they grow up, they bunk their heads in the water, share their space, and they get pulled back into this room with all these crazy guys. It's quite the party going on. It's hard to get out of here. I reset up an ethereal glass. Oh, I made it first try. Ethereal glass here to get out. Usually we collide with the entities there and just bounce backwards for like 5 minutes struggling. But we can hit the button, get a villager on demand to take them off to wherever we need. Wherever we set up a track at least. That's fun. And this will take us back to the base.
So as we've continued to develop and grow the different machines that we're running and the different things we're trying to craft, we found a bunch of different resources that we need to keep a close eye on and keep on hand all the time. One of the best ways we found to do this was with the mystical agriculture seeds and these garden cloches here, which seem to be the fastest way to grow the essence for those different seeds. We tried out the botany pots, and we tried out some of the other methods of growing things, but this one actually seemed to produce the most essence out of all of them. It does not produce the seeds, so you do need to have a couple of seeds on hand that you can kind of keep for storage purposes, but this seemed to be the greatest way to produce the quickest and the fastest amount of essence. And this is actually a multi-block utility here, so when you place this is 3 blocks high, and it is a little bit of a hassle to get set up. It's a little difficult to get it to work cleanly, but if you go up and you right click on it, you can see here's the seed, that we have turtle seeds in here and some insanium farmland, and you have to provide it with water, and bone meal is optional, but it will increase the rate at which it grows. And as it grows, it'll produce whatever item, whatever essence you have in there, and spit it out to the side, which then gets pulled into the system. You also need to provide it power, which will light up this light bulb here at the top. So normally, you need to have a whole bunch of different pipes and things to keep things organized, or to keep things flowing, and we wanted to find kind of a cleaner way to do that. If you step back here, what you'll see is we've actually used the entangled block, and we've entangled the bottom and the middle block of each cloche. And then we can do all that wiring back here. So we have water coming up from the bottom, we have bone meal coming in from the back, and then we have a importer here into the network to pull out the finished essence and get handled into our data storage here. And then power can also be provided in this bottom slot. So this seemed to be a much quicker and cleaner way to get things set up and scalable. This made it a lot easier to wire everything, a lot less of a mess, especially out front, and gives us some really cool abilities. One of the things I wanted to show off here is you'll notice these detectors on the floor. These will look inside your refined storage system, and based on whatever item you provide it, it will do something. It'll emit redstone signal depending on how you have it configured and how much is in the system. So for instance, down here we can see that these are lit. I have it configured for wheat, and when there is 1500 wheat in the system, whenever it's greater than 1500, it emits a redstone signal. In this case, I have it set to stop importing water when there's greater than that amount. So what this does is it creates kind of a self-refilling system. As the wheat continues to grow, once it reaches a certain amount, it'll cut off and stop providing water, which stops the cloche from working. Once we drop below 1500, it'll automatically kick back on, refill with water, and start growing wheat again. Same for all of the rest of the different seeds here. So it's a great way to make sure that we can keep a consistent level of some of these renewable resources like the essence and some of the farming. So that was just kind of a taste of the refined storage, but let me show you kind of what we've got set up upstairs. Okay, so we started off with the RF tool storage, and that seemed to work great. It had a wireless storage monitor we can kind of use from anywhere, but as it continued to grow and we had more and more items that we wanted to put into it, we really started to see the limitations. For instance, the top tier memory chip for it only stored 500 stacks, and it does track items by stacks instead of individual items like refined storage does. So some of the limitations end up being when you put items in there that do not stack, for instance like bows or potions that stack at 16 instead of 64. That starts to dramatically decrease the amount of items you can store in the system. Refined storage uses these disk drives, and in a disk drive you can put in a storage disk that lets you store however many items. In this case we have these 64K disks, which allow you to store 64,000 items per disk. And again, these are tracking individual items, not stacks, but overall that ends up being a pretty big net gain in the amount of items you can store. You don't take a stack penalty if an item doesn't stack, and you get a much higher resolution of storage you can realize. It also adds a whole lot of very cool features. So on top of being a pretty robust storage system, it's scalable. If I need to add more disks, I can add them into the open bays of a disk drive, and if I need to add more disk drives, I can go ahead and do that too. Slap them down, add disks in, and there you go. You've got more storage space. It also has a very cool feature of allowing you to store fluids in the system, in addition to just items. And that is configured a little bit differently. You actually create these fluid storage disks to store fluid. And you can actually intermix these. You can have a fluid disk and a storage disk in the same disk drive. So as you grow the system, you can kind of move those disks around as you expand and keep the system growing to whatever your requirements are. But that allows us to store things like milk, water, we have some fluid experience, we have lava, we have blazing blood, kind of all these other different liquid resources from the different reactors and tools in Oceanblock. So on top of that, you saw some of these downstairs. You can also have these storage monitors. If you right-click on these, shift right-click with an empty hand, you can configure what the item you're showing on here. So for instance, we're showing fluid XP on here now, but I can change this to items and say Inferium Essence. And it tells me that right now I have 65.8 thousand Inferium Essence. And these actually work like storage drawers. So if I come and click on it, it goes ahead and gives me a stack. On top of that, it also allows you some really cool automatic crafting features. You can see these couple of different monitors I have here, and I've gone ahead and right-click these with a die to change the color. For me, it kind of made sense to make my crafting grid green, and that it works. Here's my storage up here that I can scroll and search through, and I can do my crafting down here in this crafting grid. But it also has a very cool feature of this search box mode. If I click through this, and I prefer to use JEI synchronized two-way, that actually makes the search box up here and JEI intertwined. So if I start typing in @red, look at all the Project Redstone or Project Red Core, I can see all of the elements that I have in the storage system, as well as all of the recipes JEI has provided. Super handy. This next monitor over here is the fluid grid. If I right click on that, I can see the fluids that I have, and if I actually have empty buckets, I can click inside here to get a bucket of each of these resources right from here. I can also input buckets from here if you want to do it manually. Next we have the pattern grid. So this is super powerful. What this can do is train Refined Storage on how to automatically craft items for you. So for instance, let's take a look at my system here, and what do we have for buckets? Okay, so we have a couple of items, of a couple of buckets that are full, but we actually don't have any empty buckets in the system. But the system knows how to craft them. So it actually still shows up in here, and I can click on this to tell it to automatically craft some of them. How many do you want to make? Let's say 64. And then I click start. It's going to tell me what it's going to do. It's going to craft 64. It's going to need 192 iron ingots to do that. Great, let's hit start. So it's going to start crafting those buckets right away. And yeah, it actually happens so fast, we didn't get a chance to see it. But you'll be able to see active crafting jobs right here in this yellow crafting monitor. There's also the orange crafter manager, and this is really powerful. As you continue to develop and grow your system out, you'll have these crafters kind of all over the place. These crafters are what do the crafting for you. And not only can you put in recipes here, which are called patterns, that tell the system how to craft these individual items. Sometimes you'll have things that need processed, like glass. You've got to cook it in the furnace. Well, right here I have a gold crafter, and inside the gold crafter I have these patterns here. Here's the one for glass, and it tells it that it needs to input 1 sand, and it's going to output 1 glass. And these crafters are directional. At the top of it, there's an output. Right now I have it rotated to push down, and it's going to push the sand for that recipe into the furnace automatically. Let me remove these panels here so you can kind of see what's going on. The crafter is pointing down into the furnace. It'll insert the sand. We have an exporter here from the network pushing coal in to make sure the furnace is always fed. And then right here at the bottom we have an importer. That is going to take the item out of the furnace and import it back into the system. These importers and exporters are always from the perspective of the system. So you're exporting from the system or importing into the system. It's a little confusing at first, but believe me, it makes sense pretty quick once you start using it. I also have these speed upgrades on here to make sure that as it's crafting, it kind of keeps moving quickly. But what will happen is, as I craft or request some glass from the system, it will push it into the furnace, it'll automatically craft it and put it back into the system as glass, and the system will keep track of that. It understands via that pattern system that every time it puts in 1 sand, it's going to get 1 glass back. So let me show you how you create those patterns. So I'm going to open up the pattern grid, and right here I have some blank patterns just stuck in the system, and I can still look through all my items here, and let's say I wanted to look up glass. Now I know I already have a recipe in here for it, but I want to go ahead and create a simple crafting recipe. Actually, let's do... We're going to go ahead and do these processor bindings here. These processor bindings take a slime ball and then 2 string. And it can actually be any of these slime balls here. It doesn't have to be green slime. And that'll get me 8 of these processor bindings. So let me hit the plus to add this in. And you'll see processing mode is turned off, and it's about to make a crafting pattern here. Now, there's also this exact button down here. If you check mark this box, it'll always make your processor binding with, in this case, pink slime balls. If I don't check this, it'll actually use any of the alternative recipes to craft that. So it'll use the sky slime, the pink slime, green slime, and so forth. So if I click this here, create, all right, I've made a pattern here that I can put into a crafter, and once it's in there, the system will know how to make processor bindings. The other option for doing this is that processing area. So if I turn on processing, what I'm doing is I'm teaching the system that there's a relationship between one item to another. So for instance, if I go to sand and I drag one of those in here, or in this case 64, and then I go to glass and I drag 64 in here. If I create a pattern here, you can see for every 64 sand I input, I'm going to get 64 glass out. And this is a processing pattern. Now what that means is it goes into a crafter, but in this case here, it's got to be a crafter that's pointed into another machine that's going to process that material into whatever its final form is going to be. Like I said, the crafter is directional, so the crafter actually outputs the item into the furnace here, which then outputs it back into the system. But this could be any process. Doesn't have to be a furnace. This could be any other machine that accepts items being pushed into it. And you can go through a whole series of machines before it comes back in. All it does is it teaches the system that there's a relationship between what you've put in to what you're going to get back out of it. For instance, we've also set one up here that lets you process all of these essences up to the higher tiers. We kind of covered this in an earlier video, but this is how we incorporated it into this system here. So as we dump the essence in here, it'll actually craft up through these tiers to get us to Insanium. Along with that, kind of the last thing I'll point out are these requesters here. These requesters are super powerful. You can give it a count, in this case we said 64, and the requester will just make that request from the system for these many, or these items in particular, to be in the inventory and keep it at 64. So for instance, we should now actually have 64 of each type of essence, and then these different processors that I know I'm going to need frequently. So if this count in the system ever drops below 64, the requester will request more and get those crafted. What's going on, horse? How you doing? Can't you see more corner video? Alright.
I was going to zap him.
There'll be time. Alright, so you've kind of seen how this works. Let me just show you a little bit of behind the scenes of how the fluid importing works. Take you into the back room here. Fluid is very similar to the item importers. Here down here we have an importer that's actually been configured for fluids and doesn't have, you can see it's in blacklist mode and we don't have anything configured, so it accepts anything. What I can do is pick up one of these different ender tanks. Let's say this one for liquid meat. And then I can drop this tank right in here. There we go. It's been imported into the system. So now to refill from the other mob farm you just saw. But this is a great way to get things imported into your system and how to kind of interact with fluids. And if I take the search off here, you can see, yep, now we have another, we have about 225 buckets of liquid meat stored in the system. So, what is the best way to use something like this? Well, I can tell you from personal experience that crafting up the memory chips for these is very costly and very time consuming. If I'm looking at the storage parts, I can see that the 1K, the small storage part, takes some glass, some redstone, some quartz enriched iron, some silicone, and if I look at the next tier up, the 4K, it actually requires 3 of the 1K. And if I move up to the 16K storage part, it requires 3 of the 4K storage. So this process continues all the way up until you get to the top tier storage part right here, this let's see, 16,384K storage part, where it requires 3 of the 4096. So each part requires the previous part to be made. That gets extremely costly and time consuming. So what is the best way to do this? Well, you can save yourself a whole lot of time by creating all of the recipes you need to craft up through those item chips. Let's say we wanted to craft up one of these 16K storage parts here. I've already put in the patterns on how to craft up through them and what resources we need. So if I click on this and I say I want to craft one of them, it knows that to craft one of these, it needs to craft 3 of these. I have 1 available in the system, and it would need to make 2 more. It would need these many processors, these many other smaller cores, and this much redstone, and so forth. It tallies all this stuff up. And if I go ahead and hit start here, yeah, you can see it's already crafted it. It's just that quick. Now, if there is a longer process, you can actually hit this yellow crafting monitor, and there you go. It knows I used a bunch of these processors, so it's automatically crafting to get me back to those numbers I wanted to keep at. So any active crafting tests, you can check on them in here and see what's going on. So, I know we covered a lot, but that's refined storage. There's a lot you can do with it, and it's very customizable, and there's great ways you can hook it into kind of all of the different systems you use in any of these packs. So definitely something I'm excited about, and I'll be using a lot in the future.
Dragoon pointed these out as he popped them off. These are Chisel and bits. We just took a slice of the, I think it was a Tyrian. Yep, up in the tooltip you can see Tyrian, and made a little wall panel out of it. You can do a lot of different things with that mod. Like in our opener, you may have noticed a couple new additions to our little room. We've got a box that fits between the 2 chairs and doesn't have any polygonal tears or whatever you want to call those, flashing when the 2 parts are combined, and a little plushy sheep. This guy is made out of just pixel blocks. Let me pull out my chisel.
That's so great.
And a bag. What we got here? We've got white stained glass. So, with the chisel, you've got a bunch of different settings that you can do. You get a block out to. White wool. No, we won't tear up the ground. But we've got a bunch of settings. Line, half cube, quarter cube, eighth cube, single bit, connected material, drawn range, region, same material, large cube, medium cube, small cube, connected plane, plane, and that's it. The 3 I use the most are line, plane, and the single one. Where's that? There we go, single bit. A single bit will, of course, just take one single bit, 1 pixel of it, and that 1 pixel, go to your inventory, or to a bag if you've got. And you can use that 1 pixel anywhere you want. You get the same options with the bits as you do with the chisel. So we put this over to single bit, and we pop it up there, make a little mountain. If I had more than one, you can do the chiseling with the bits instead of a chisel too. But you can also apply them in whatever shape you want, making whatever statue or floor pattern, wall pattern, whatever. I've been working on some things around behind the scenes. Can't think of the words tonight. But we've got these lines in here just to give a little more detail than just stone. We used to have this rounded off, but something was causing a lot of lag in through here. It didn't seem to be coming from the mob farm, so we took these super chiseled bits off, just in case. But you could do other things like make a lava pot with flowing lava at the side of a crack.
So cool.
Get the fluids. You'd be using this chiseled bit storage container. You dump a bucket of fluid in there, water, lava, milk, whatever, and right click it to get a stack of bits, and then you can use those bits however you want. Lava's a pretty neat one to work with because it doesn't give light, like it's not going to ruin your mob farm or light up an area to stop mobs from spawning, but they still light up in the dark, so it's like a black lit area. But we'll be using that quite a bit more around the base, just playing around with it. It's a fun mod to work with. There's a lot more to that mod that we can go over in more depth later on. One other thing we've been working on is getting creative flight through here, through a very buggy tool it seems. So we moved it up top for a failed recording earlier. And, oh, there we go. It's working up here now. It
Nice.
Seems to... Nope, it just dropped off. Yeah. When it works, it's amazing. It's the environmental controller through RF tools. It's like a really advanced beacon. I made a flight module for it, and it gives creative flight, or should give creative flight, as you can tell by my jumping and key pressing on the spacebar. It's not working. When it works, it's great. When it doesn't work, it's like the rest of RF tools. It's buggy and amazing and not awesome and awesome. It's all the things. I was thinking of using the poison module to kill off all the animals that we keep getting around here. But remember that poison only takes them down to 1 heart. So we've got another solution for that through immersive engineering. It's called a Tesla coil. Flip that. It should be on.
Whoa!
There we go.
Hey, watch it.
That's got some pretty big range on it, so if you set that up, make sure you set the lever off pretty far. When I was playing around with it earlier, I accidentally killed Dragoon with it.
Yeah, really made it feel like an accident when you went so far as to hide the gravestone afterwards.
Well, you found it right away. So you may have also noticed up top, we did a little bit of building. Figured it was about time. Oh yeah, I should just take the elevator. Instead of struggling with a ladder using a jetpack. Very scenic with the moon coming up behind it.
Oh yeah, couldn't have planned that better.
Dragoon designed a nice little windmill for us up here.
One of the power generators is a windmill, and I felt what better way to use it than to actually build a windmill. So threw one together, and it's not doing too much right now, but running these spotlights, you can actually see there's light out over the water. The spotlight will shoot a beam or a couple of beams out over kind of quite a distance. So we're using it just to power those spotlights right now.
Yep. Well, if you look at the mini-map, you can actually see that it puts out phantom light blocks, basically.
Oh yeah.
So every once in a while, when you're growing trees to get a bee, sometimes you'll break the light. It's a little weird. That was really hard to string up the wires up through the back of it. We'll have to dabble more in this immersive engineering to see if there's easier ways to go about doing this. I like to be creative, but sometimes it's a little too much.
It's nice to have a little bit of land to have up here too. You know, living down in a bubble the whole time, it just gets a little claustrophobic. It's nice to have some space to run around.
Yeah. And with the space, how about we celebrate with a wither kill?
Oh sure, build something nice and let's destroy it.
Oh, we should be on claimed chunks.
let me double check that real quick. Yeah, they are claimed.
Grab a few skulls.
Let's see, yeah, get my armor on.
Soul sand.
Let's get a bow.
Good call with the armor. Don't forget your jetpack.
Yeah, I think I have one.
Unless that creative flight kicks in.
Nope.
Someday. Oh, let me grab 3. Ready?
Let's go for it.
Am I ready? I think I'm ready. Ready as I'll ever be. Here we go.
Jeez. Why does he have a hat on?
Nice hats.
Taken into the air.
It's almost to the halfway point. He's halfway. Melee attacks only. Oh, almost got him. There he goes. Oh, there goes the start. I lost it. It's down here somewhere. Is that it? That's an arrow.
Here, I've got a ring of magnet. Let's see what we can get.
Good call.
Switch back to my diving suit.
My FOV changed from the other.
Whoop. There we go. Got the nether star.
Awesome. That was fun. Now we can do a lot of things with withers and nether stars.
I know there's a bunch of things.
Set up a big farm for it.
think there's a generator that
They
runs
will
off of them
generate
too.
enough. Yep. I think they give more experience too. So we use those wither builders that we got from quest rewards. Something set up with that.
Blew the nether painting right off the wall.
I guess not everything is safe. I did see the tree caught fire and didn't actually burn down, so that was nice.
It is nice. Well, I think that's going to wrap it up for this one. We went through all the power generation that we made and kind of built this nice little windmill island we had here, and then took on a wither, and got a nether star. I know there's a lot of generators and other cool things we can craft with that, so looking forward to see kind of like what we can get into.
Yeah. Thanks for watching, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.